In the middle of 2025, this video went viral.
This is the most humbled I've ever felt in my life. I'm literally holding resumes, a stack of them, so that I can go in person to places and say, are you guys hiring? It's honestly a little bit embarrassing because I'm literally applying for like minimum wage jobs, and some of them are being like, we're not hiring, and it's like, what? This is not what I expected. I graduated college with 2 degrees in communications and acting. I speak 3 languages. Oh, this sucks. Like, I just want to be a TikToker, if I'm being so for real with you. But I can't be delusional anymore. Like, I literally need to make money. So I'm just gonna keep trying.
The video is heartbreaking to watch, but the truth is that she isn't alone in this economic predicament.
I can't stand it when people say,
oh, Gen Z is so lazy, no one wants to work anymore. What is it with this generation?
bitch, I would work if I could fucking get a job. You try being Gen Z and try getting a job, see how long it takes you. My generation is entering the most cooked job market of all time. It's so bad that for the first time, the new grad unemployment rate is higher than the unemployment rate overall. Our jobs are all replaced by AI, reviewing resumes, the whole hiring process is replaced by AI. No one even looks at your fucking resume anymore.
The unemployment rate for new college grads has recently surged, and some economists say businesses are now replacing entry-level jobs with artificial intelligence.
Surveys show that job prospects for recent graduates are down significantly from a year ago. So what is going on?
Amazon is reportedly planning to replace more than 500,000 jobs with robots.
Could be one of the biggest workplace automations in modern history. Now, there are concerns this morning that Amazon, it's the second largest private employer in the country, as Lindsay said, is hoping to replace more than 500,000 new jobs with robots.
The things we've been told our entire lives, if you do this, do that, you'll have an okay life, right? You'll be able to afford a home, you'll be able to buy a home, you'll have one job that'll pay enough. We're finding out that it was all a lie.
The truth is, if you were born within 75 to 40 years ago, life was easier than it is today. You can afford a home at a price that is about 2 to 3 times your yearly income. You can get married and raise a family on a single income. You can retire and have your savings and pension take good care of you for the rest of your life. Fast forward to our present day, these stories feel like a fairy tale and is obviously practically impossible. For many years, the golden rule for success can be summed up in these statements: go to school, get a good grade, get a good job, and work hard. Start a family, save, and buy your own home. Retire at your old age and live off the remainder of your life on your pension and savings. This sounds great, and for many years, this formula worked out pretty well for previous generations until Gen Z and, to some extent, millennials came of working age and it stopped working. This blueprint for an opportunity to a modest life is no longer applicable today in practical terms, as I will show you shortly. For us to begin to understand how we got to this mess, it's important that we go down some economic history. The gradual demise of economic opportunities in advanced economies started with the opening up of markets in previously closed economies of many countries in Asia, such as China, Singapore, Hong Kong, Vietnam, South Korea, and India, with China being the biggest disruptor of the global markets. Many advanced economies, like the United States and Europe, enjoyed relative economic stability and wealth creation for a long time, with little or no competition post-World War II, until China started opening up its market, which started around 1978 and eventually culminated in them joining the World Trade Organization by 2001. China entering the World Trade Organization was the single most disruptive and consequential moment in the history of globalization, which was well known by the term China shock. After China entered the WTO in 2001, the United States deficit started to balloon. The growing bilateral trade deficit with China erased an estimated 3.7 million jobs, including 2.8 million manufacturing jobs between 2001 and 2011. The reason many Western economies were bleeding was simply because of the exportation of cheap manufactured goods into the global market from countries like China and Singapore, where there is a cheaper labor force than their Western counterpart. Hence, making manufactured goods from the Western economies of Europe and that of the United States less competitive globally as well as locally. To remain competitive, many companies had to relocate their manufacturing bases to the emerging cheap labor and less regulated economies of Asia. The race to remain competitive in the global economy have pushed many companies into many cost-cutting practices, such as offshoring, outsourcing, and automation, which have led to fewer and fewer jobs for workers in many Western nations. And these practices have culminated in a devastating job environment for many young graduates today. The race to remain competitive is even more fierce today than ever before, and new tools have emerged in the horizon, which will help corporations further reduce costs and rid themselves of costly workers. This tool is even more shocking than the China shock and more devastating than anything we have seen before. Of course, I'm talking about artificial intelligence and humanoid robots. According to McKinsey's Global Institute, by 2030, up to 30% of hours currently worked in the United States economy could be automated. Goldman Sachs published a report projecting that AI could affect up to 300 million jobs globally. The latest jobs report shows that the United States jobs numbers were revised down by more than a whopping 1 million. In other words, over 1 million jobs that we thought was created in 2025 was actually non-existent. This is the single largest downward revision in at least 20 years. These recent job losses are just the beginning of what is to come over the next decade or so. According to a survey by Forbes, many hiring managers are finding Gen Z unemployable and are already replacing entry-level jobs with artificial intelligence. 41% of hiring managers view AI as more reliable than Gen Z. Also from the report, 18% of organizations say that they are experiencing productivity decrease due to employing Gen Z. 21% of companies surveyed have already replaced entry-level roles with AI. Approximately 7 to 88% of organizations have introduced AI into at least one area of their businesses, with nearly 35% of Fortune 500 companies relying on AI to manage operations. This is equivalent to 1 in 6 jobs being taken over by AI in 2026 already, and it's going to get worse. No group of workers have seen the destructive nature of AI on their careers than software engineers. Employment for computer programmers have plummeted to its lowest level since 1980, years before the internet. This is just unbelievable. While most of us are still trying to grasp how artificial intelligence is already destroying white-collar job opportunities, we are paying less attention to its twin sister, humanoid robots. General-purpose consumer robots will be as disruptive to blue-collar jobs as it is to white-collar jobs. But it isn't really getting the kind of attention it deserves because everyone is thinking that it's still in the developing stages. But in the world of technological development, speed is always underestimated. The effects of large-scale industrial automation are already well studied and documented. For example, in the automotive manufacturing sector, adding 1 industrial robot per 100 workers decreases employment by about 3 to 6 workers and led to reduced wages for the remaining workers. Humanoid robots will in the next 15 to 20 years start to compete with humans in multiple repetitive physical tasks previously hard to automate, such as general logistics, simple construction, firefighters, and home care. These jobs, which have employed low-income, unskilled laborers and immigrants in America, is about to be automated. The younger generation is not only facing a dwindling economic opportunities due to AI and automation, they are also navigating through a world that is no longer affordable for the average earner. From this chart, workers have produced much more over the decades, but the typical worker's compensation have been lagging behind over the years. From 1948 to 1973, productivity went up by 96%. Equally, hourly compensation went up 91%. However, from 1973 to 2013, productivity went up by 75%, but hourly compensation went up 9%. According to the Economic Policy Institute, wages of young college graduates have been falling since the year 2000. The average hourly wages have fallen from $19.5 to $15.29 between 2001 and 2014. This fall in workers' compensation is notwithstanding that from 2001 to 2006, the cumulative inflation is 88%. In other words, a dollar bill in 2001 is worth $36 today, adjusted for inflation. The housing market exemplifies Gen Z's affordability crisis in a solemn way. According to CNBC, roughly 1 in 3 adults aged 18 to 34 are still living with their parents in the United States. In Australia, 54% of those aged 18 to 30 are living with their parents. More than half of Gen Z adults say that they don't make enough money to live the kind of life they wanted, according to a survey by Bank of America. In the United States, many young workers are foregoing the idea of owning a home in their lifetime. This sentiment has was reflected in the average age of homebuyer going from 39 to 59 years old in the last 15 years. This chart from Demographic International Affordability Report, an organization that tracks the prices of homes around the world, shows the ratio of average home prices to the median income in major advanced economies. From the report, many homes are out of reach for the average worker, with many places having a home price-to-income ratio of 5 to 6 times, an astronomical amount considering that in 1992, the average home price-to-income ratio was about 2.8 to 3 times income. In the United States and UK, the housing market fell under the impossible affordable range at a multiple of 5.8 to 6 times average income, up by more than 50% 3 decades ago. New Zealand fell under the severely unaffordable range with a multiple of 7.7 times average income. Australia and Hong Kong fell under the impossibly affordable category with a staggering home price-to-income ratio of 9.7 to 11 range. From what I have explained so far, we can see that the younger generation isn't having a nice time at all. Now, I know what most of you watching this will be like, well, previous generations never had it so easily too, but that's where the timing factor applies. Here's what makes this uniquely unfair for Gen Z specifically. Every previous generation had time to build up before automation hit their field. Baby boomers had decades of stable employment before globalization, and technology even began to erode manufacturing. Millennials, to an extent, got a foothold in the digital economy before AI made that foothold unstable. Gen Z gets none of that runway. They're trying to gain experience at the same moment companies are deciding they might not need as many entry-level humans at all. And there's a compounding effect here that rarely gets talked about. Entry-level jobs aren't just about the salary. They're how you build skills. They're how you learn the industry. They're how you get the experience that qualifies you for the next level. When those jobs disappear or contract, that whole pipeline breaks down, and that's going to have career-long consequences for an entire cohort of workers. While we spend so much time talking about the challenges facing the young generation, we rarely talk about the effects these challenges they are facing is having on their health and well-being. A new survey by Harmony Healthcare IT finds that 42% of those born between 1990 and 2010 have been diagnosed with a mental health condition, with a majority of about 85% of respondents saying that they are very worried about their future. Nearly 90% of Gen Z say that they don't feel set up for success, and 75% of them believe that they are at disadvantage compared to the older generation. A publication in Fortune magazine reiterated this trend in Gen Z with the following headline: Gen Z are more depressed and isolated than their coworkers and feel less successful than other generations at their age. Another addition to the effects of this crisis is that many younger generations are already giving up on marriages and having kids. The Marriage Foundation said that over half of all Gen Z men and women will ever get married. From the data provided by the Marriage Foundation, marriage rates have collapsed among those aged 25 and under, unlike previous generations. Whereas 60% of women and 41% of men born in 1960 married before they were 25 years old. Today, just 4% of women and 2% of men born between 1998 and 2001 have done so. It's no longer news that the younger generation is facing an existential crisis, from job insecurity as a result of automation threats from AI and humanoid robots, to a cost of living crisis, to a future that's so uncertain and unpredictable. It's important that governments all over the world recognizes that their younger generation, which makes up over 60% of their workforce, is the bedrock and the economic engine of any nation. They are the most productive of any age bracket, and hence, more concerted efforts should be made to make life more livable and exciting for them. More has to be done to make sure that this younger generation feel alive and not disconnected, feel uplifted and not replaced by dystopian technologies.